The massive moves seem to be around the corner for the Toronto Blue Jays, but will they go all in on the free agent market? And GM Ross Atkins, he's spoken out on Jose Berrios and what to expect from him in 2023. We'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside co-host Nick Gosse. We've got a lot to get into today, but first we want to thank you all for the support that we've been getting. It's been unreal, and we're so close to 4K subscribers, so keep smashing that sub button.
Yeah, very quick reminder, 81.7% of you guys who are watching are not subscribed, so if you enjoy the daily content, hit the button. But enough of that, let's get right into the first topic of the video. Massive moves coming for not only the Jays, but around the MLB. So The Athletic posted an article that'll pop up now, basically foreshadowing when some moves will be coming, and there might be sooner than you think. So next week's meetings provide a fertile backdrop for those compromises. Obviously, it's the first annual gathering of the sport taking place in person since 2019 because of COVID. And basically, he used an analogy here that the executives and agents agree that this incarnation is shaping up to drop a couple Mentos in a soda bottle, meaning stuff is going to explode, and that the real movement could start Friday or Saturday before the meetings begin and extend beyond Wednesday, before the conclusion Wednesday. So the big point here is the real movement could start Friday being today. So there could be major news after this video drops. But what are your just thoughts on that before we get into the other screenshots? The news could be dropping soon.
Well, first thing, those are some really weird and kind of disturbing analogies. I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that type of writing style there. The writers tend to do the most. But we try to keep it simple on this channel. And basically, things will go down in these winter meetings. Something will happen in the next couple of days for the Blue Jays. And, I mean, GM Ross Atkins, he's been pretty vocal how he's going to be aggressive, not only on the free agent market, but also on the trade market, just because of our roster shape up. We have a lot of assets that we can trade and make other positions better. So I'm expecting something to happen within the next couple days, and I expect the Jays to be heavily involved, not only on the trade front, but on some pretty big name free agents as well.
Yeah, a move could happen tonight, could happen tomorrow. We'll have a video tomorrow discussing some of the comments that were said by Ross. But yeah, it's very interesting to me that moves could happen as soon as tonight. It's kind of crazy to think about. It feels like the season just ended and we just were feeling the heartbreak from the devastating loss. But let's get into the next screenshot here. That shapes their pursuit of an additional hitter, as well as how they consider a trade possibility for a catcher that includes a major league outfielder. The Cardinals have had discussions with at least Toronto and Oakland about their catchers, including Gold Glover Sean Murphy. The Blue Jays, who have 3 catchers, including Danny Jansen, are shopping for a left-handed young outfielder. The Cardinals' moves could hint at their expectations for Tyler O'Neill. So the major thing here is, obviously, we've talked about this a lot, but it's once again affirmating the Jays are shopping for a left-handed hitter and are willing to trade one of their catchers. And Danny Jansen is the name that they use once again for an example. They're not using Kirk. They're not using Moreno. Moreno talks have seemed to almost shut down completely, but it just seems to be just completely Danny Jansen.
Yeah, I think the Blue Jays are going to heavily pursue one of the outfielders on the Cardinals because I think the desperation is a lot higher than that of the Oakland A's. I mean, the Oakland A's are not in a position to make the playoffs, not even close to a position to contend right now. So yes, they have a good trade piece in Sean Murphy, but I think the Jays could put together a better package that includes Danny Jansen and maybe a prospect or two for either Lars Nootbaar or Dylan Carlson, and those are 2 excellent pieces I'd love to have in the Jays uniform, and it addresses a position of need, center field and left-handed hitting, and in the case of Dylan Carlson, switch hitting. Yeah, we've kind of beaten this to death in the sense that that Danny Jansen or one of our catchers could be headed to St. Louis to replace Yadier Molina, and we get a center fielder, a big league center fielder in return that has a ton of potential and a ton of years of control left.
Yeah, the rumors continue to pick up, and I think we'll finally start seeing some resolution to these rumors over the next few days. This is let's get into the juicy screenshot now, which is in terms of starting pitchers, Atkins didn't rule out shopping at the top of the market, which is headlined by DeGrom, Rodon, and Verlander, although the GM acknowledged if they devoted substantial resources on a starter, then, quote, we need to think through what that means for other areas of needs and opportunities, maybe hinting at, they might have a limited budget here. And of those 3 names, Verlander is the most interesting because the Blue Jays pursued him a year ago and came close to signing him, which is kind of crazy to think about. We didn't really speak about that much on the time last year. But what are your thoughts on that? The Jays seemingly are going to at least make an attempt. Do we think it's realistic? Probably not. but they're going to at least make an attempt at one of the top three there.
Of the three, I think the best fit is Carlos Rodon, just because of need. He's a lefty. He's younger. You could probably get him for probably longer than those other guys that you'd be getting. But Jacob deGrom, he's the best pitcher of this generation. Justin Verlander, a first ballot Hall of Famer when he does decide to retire, if he ever even slows
Maybe
down
never.
in that sense. Yeah, maybe never. Who knows? The guy could be pitching until he's 50. Nolan Ryan-esque, if I were to compare him to somebody. But I don't know. If the Jays, under the assumption that the Jays are not operating on a budget, I think the most likely fit would be Justin Verlander because they have been linked in the past. Although I think the best fit would be Carlos Rodon, despite his injury history. They need a lefty in that starting rotation, and I think he's a pretty solid starter. Obviously, Jacob deGrom, I don't think that's realistic. He's very talented. I'd love to have him in a Jays uniform, but under the assumption that they are working on a budget, I don't think either option is realistic. They're going to command too much money, and I'd love to see them go after one of the three, but it's I have a hard time believing that the Jays are going to spend more than $233 million next year for their payroll. And if they don't decide to spend more than that, then I mean they won't have enough. They won't have enough to get one of those guys, and they won't be able to address any other positional needs.
Yeah, Ross, obviously, I'll pop it up one more time for you guys. He says that they didn't rule out the shopping at the top of the market, so they'll probably do their due diligence, and I don't think they'll ultimately sign any of them. Maybe Verlander would be the most realistic. I think if any of them were to happen, I'd put my money on Verlander if you told me one was to happen. But obviously, Rodon would be the next best. But one more screenshot regarding this topic, and this is kind of regarding the catchers thing. I'll just touch on it once more. Obviously, Danny Jansen, Kirk, and Moreno have drawn considerable interest from other clubs, especially with the shallow free agency catching market, which is something that we've touched on a lot, but it's kind of a key point here. There's not that many. Oakland obviously has their catchers, and the Blue Jays have been listening to offers from other teams, but they also believe they're not in a position where they absolutely have to trade one of the catchers if they don't get an offer that benefits their club. In other words, the team is comfortable rostering all three of their backstops, a decision made easier by both Jansen and Kirk's ability to DH while Moreno can play other positions as third base or left field. I don't like that at all. I don't want to keep all three. I've been kind of, on that. I've been vocal about that. I don't want to keep all three. I'd rather trade one of them just to address another need. Because if we don't trade one
Yeah.
of them, and then let's say like a month into the season, our pitching is horrible or our bullpen is horrible, or maybe we don't get a left-handed outfielder, then we'll be sitting there wondering why do we have three catchers?
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that because you can't keep all three. You saw what it did for you last year. You had too many holes in your roster, and you had three exceptional catchers. It just didn't make sense. I don't care about their versatility. I don't care where they can play. It just doesn't make sense to keep all three. And I mentioned the desperation on the Blue Jays side to get a left-handed hitting outfielder. There's desperation from a handful of major league teams right now to get a quality catcher, and the Blue Jays can provide that for one of those teams.
Yeah, like the article said, shallow free agency market. So keep an eye on that. I just hope they don't keep all three. Nothing against them, but I think we need to make some change. But let's get into the second topic, which is a GM Ross Atkins speaks out on Jose Berrios. We haven't spoken much about Berrios. A few people on Twitter and Reddit have been speaking about him because obviously he could kind of be, the dark horse that hopefully returns to his form, especially after giving him that massive contract, and he really needs to return to form. Ross Atkins said this. Blue Jays Ross Atkins on Jose Berrios. There's a huge part of me that has so much faith in Berrios being a lot closer to the pitcher he was in all of the years prior. Now, what are your thoughts on that quote? A bit of an interesting one. Basically, what else is he going to say? But, it's interesting that we haven't really spoken about him much, and I think that he could be a very important piece, and he needs to be if we want to contend for a World Series.
I think he's going to have a bounce back here. I really think 2022 is a bit of an anomaly for Jose Berrios. He's very athletic. He has a very repeatable, fluid delivery, and I just don't see him struggling the way he did again in this upcoming season. I don't know what it was. Maybe the change of baseballs. It didn't make sense how he just kind of fell off a cliff last season, and he's too good. He's been too good in the past to kind of just repeat that same mediocrity that he had in 2022. So I think he's going to be very good this season. I don't think he'll be our ace like he was pegged to be in 2022. Now it's surefire Alek Manoah, but I still think he's our third best starter right now, and he's going to be that in 2022, in 2023. Sorry. So I don't see him struggling the way he did again, and I'm sure he'll have a bounce back here. I agree with Ross there.
Yeah, it was just a year ago, or a bit over a year ago, that he was our opening day starter. And I remember, obviously, opening day, he got shelled for a lot of runs against the Rangers. But yeah, Manoah, Gosman, Berrios is their top three. And hopefully we need to sign some more depth. Maybe someone overtakes him. But either way, we need him to be a mid, 3.5 ERA pitcher. That's perfect. That's what we need. And maybe
Can
even
do
better.
that.
He has the peripherals to be better. But last topic of the video, and this one just dropped like 30 minutes ago as of the time of recording, probably about 2 hours as of the time of uploading, but Pat Tabler is leaving Sportsnet. Now this, it shocked me, and we read it. I read it to
Mhm.
Peter on the call right before recording, and I'll just pop it up here. Thank you, Tabby. Statement from Sportsnet. For 17 seasons, he's parting ways. Known simply as Tabby. He endured himself to Canadian viewers, and basically, he's done. There was a thank you to Tabby. What are your thoughts on that, and what maybe it means that Buck is returning, or maybe it's just because they gave Dan the full-time job? But I don't know. I'm a bit confused. I'm not confused. I'm surprised.
Well, I don't think this has anything to do with Dan Shulman because Pat Tabler was always the color commentator. He never did play by play. But we know Shulman's going to be the number one guy for the Blue Jays next year. And I love that personally. I've been very vocal about Dan Shulman being the best in the business. I think he's the best play by play guy in the majors. Maybe a little biased there, but a lot of people like him. And I love Buck Martinez as a color commentator. I think he provides great insight. He was a very smart major league player. He was a catcher, which catchers do tend to be very smart. And I think he has a lot to provide in that aspect. If he chooses to be back with Sportsnet, another potential replacement for him, maybe Jamie Campbell. I don't know. Maybe if Buck Martinez doesn't want to come back or he's not really feeling up to it because of his health, maybe Jamie Campbell could make an appearance as the color commentator. But I'm sad to see Tabby go. He was very good, very knowledgeable about the game, and was always pretty funny. I found with Dan Shulman or Buck Martinez. I like their tandem.
Yeah, it's shocking. And Jamie, he's had experience back there. He used to do it as well. So maybe he's the next one up, Jamie Campbell. But interesting. And maybe it means
Yeah.
Buck's coming back, which would be great. But shout out to Tabby either way. It's gonna be weird not seeing him at least on the game sometimes. But one last thing I'll touch on before wrapping up the video. Very quick thing. Fred McGriff, 2023 Contemporary Hall of Fame ballot. Obviously, I didn't get to watch much of Fred McGriff, but it is cool that a former Blue Jay. Do you have any thoughts on that before we wrap up the video?
Yeah, I never got to see the Crime Dog live in action. I wish I did. Me, Nick, and I were 2000s babies, so we weren't old enough to quite see Fred McGriff in a Jays uniform or Fred McGriff at all. We were just babies when he was getting out of the MLB. But I've seen a lot of comments on Twitter saying that he should go in as a Blue Jay. I don't know if he will be a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's definitely got a shot. But he's very I don't know. He might not be a surefire Hall of Famer or first ballot Hall of Famer. Definitely not. But if he were to go in, I think he does go in as a Blue Jay because I looked at his baseball reference. He had his best years as a Jay when he was first starting. Only 6 seasons, I believe, but he was an all-star in 4 of them. So maybe he's got a real shot to go in as a Jay, and it'd be nice to see him in the level of excellence in the new renovated Rogers Center.
Yeah, it was good to see. Obviously, like you said, we didn't get to see much from him, but I just want to throw it out there in case you guys didn't see it, or if any of you viewers have watched a lot of Fred, let us know what your thoughts on that are in the comments. Support's been unbelievable. We're so close to 4K. Thank you guys for the support, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.